Welcome in to Duval Daily presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're looking at Jacksonville Jaguars wide receiver Zay Jones and answering the question, will he make an impact in Duval? If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe on YouTube. We really appreciate your support, Duval. We could not do this without you. You can follow myself on Twitter at Jordan DeLugo, Generation Jaguar at Generation Jag. Zay Jones just turned 27 years old. The Jaguars signed him to a 3-year deal this offseason worth $24 million total, a little over $14 million guaranteed. That is starter money in the NFL, even if it is low-end starter. There is an out in that contract after year 2. He was originally drafted by the Bills in the second round of the 2017 NFL draft out of East Carolina. Really bizarre incident in 2018 when he was charged for felony vandalism. His brother Caleb, who's also an NFL player, apparently stopped him from harming himself, and there was just a really crazy situation there. There's a whole lot more information on that you can find with a simple Google search. I won't get into the weeds on that, but it is worth mentioning that Zay Jones has had some off-field issues in the past. Again, that was in 2018, his second year as a pro, and that was actually his most productive season with the Buffalo Bills over there. 7 touchdowns, caught a lot of balls for Josh Allen. But moving beyond that 2018 season, his third year with the Bills in 2019, they traded him to the Raiders for a 5th-round pick. And he was targeted 20 times during his first full season with the Raiders in 2020, so didn't make a big impact there. And then in 2021, the Raiders re-signed Jones to a 1-year deal, and he had the most efficient season of his career for the Raiders in 2021, last season. He held in 47 receptions on 70 targets, 67% catch rate, which is above average and overall pretty impressive. 546 yards and a touchdown. Also scored a touchdown in the playoffs for the Raiders against the Bengals. Critical touchdown catch. They weren't able to win that game, but that play got them back in it and got them in striking distance. So that's a little background on Zay Jones. Let's look at his skill set, which in my mind is more important than what he's really done before statistically. You want to look at what he can do. And what can he do for a football team? He's 6'2", 200 pounds, so good size, long arms, very good overall athleticism to go with that size. And he ran a 4.45 40-yard dash at the combine with a 36.5-inch vert. Again, with his size at 6'2", 200 pounds and long arms, combined with that athleticism, you've got what should be a quality receiver in terms of just the size profile and the athletic profile. He has an explosive first step, good overall acceleration off the line of scrimmage. You'll consistently see that. He gets on defensive backs quickly, and he can carry them down the field to help open underneath receivers and open up the rest of the field. So that is obviously extremely helpful. Jones seemingly always catches the easy ones, which should be a welcome sight for Jaguars fans, where Jacksonville has struggled. Their receivers have to sometimes haul in the easy ones over the last couple years. Contested catch situations, he's okay. Not going to bring in a ton of them, but he'll bring down some close quarters grabs for you. That touchdown catch he had in the playoffs, he was blanketed by the cornerback, but Derek Carr fired it in there, and Jones came down with it. But that corner was draped all over him. So top of the route stem, I think, is where Jones really kind of struggles the most. Throttling down and changing directions is not a strong suit. Now, he does have explosive one-cut ability in his routes to change directions in like 30 to 45 degree angle, but throttling down and changing directions on hard cuts, routes where you're like breaking in and then you cut out, those those times where you really need to be quick and fluid, Jones, he does not have that ability to really decelerate and explode out of his breaks at the top of the route tree or top of the route stem. So that's a challenge for him. You see that pretty consistently. But with his ability to get on the corners so quickly, it's not always a detriment for Jones that he's not super quick, because if he gets on them with speed and explosiveness, they have very little time to react. And even if he takes a little longer to get out of his break, he's already got them going in the wrong direction. You'll see that pretty consistently. He's been a quality blocker throughout his career, and I don't think that was lost on the Jaguars when they signed him. I think they're going to run the ball a lot early on in 2022 with that wide zone rushing attack, inside zone. They will get in some gap power schemes, but it's going to be heavily leaning towards that zone rushing attack, and I think Jones is going to help you in that regard. His fit in Jacksonville. So the Jaguars also signed Christian Kirk, wide receiver, this offseason, Evan Ingram, who's basically a jumbo slot. They also signed Marvin Jones last offseason. They've got Laviska Shenault, who was a 2020 second-round pick, Jamal Agnew in the fold as well, who played really well when he got on the field as a receiver last year, and they re-signed Laquan Treadwell this offseason. They also brought in Kevin Austin as an undrafted free agent following the 2022 NFL Draft. Where does that leave Zay? Again, I think you got to follow the money here. He is being paid like a starting receiver. And even though he's technically makes more than Marvin Jones, it's hard for me to imagine him being on the field over Marvin in these two wide receiver sets. You're not going to see a ton of two wide receiver sets, I wouldn't imagine. I mean, you might, because you might see Evan Ingram and Dan Arnold on the field together a lot. So you could see more two wide receiver sets than you're used to seeing in the modern NFL with those two tight end sets. You could see a lot of one wide receiver sets. Marvin is just a much better receiving threat than Zay Jones. I'm not trying to bash Zay Jones, but he's more accomplished. He's got better ball skills. He's a better route runner. Everything about Marvin's game in terms of being a pure receiver, I think Marvin is just a better receiving threat than Zay Jones. So I'd be surprised if Zay Jones is the Jaguars' number 2 receiver, but I do think he'll end up being the number 3 receiver just based on that contract and based on his ability to make things easier for the rest of the team. The Jags could still sign a receiver that would bump Jones down the depth chart, but that would be a surprise to me, considering the resources they've used over the last couple years at that position. So yeah, for now, I think that leaves Zay Jones as the 3rd wide receiver who can align both inside and outside. Did that a lot for the Raiders, lining up, all over the field. He can help you in the running game. He can help open up the field for others. He'll catch what's there, and he'll give you what the X's and O's dictate he should be giving you. But he's rarely going to go beyond the play design to make something happen. He's not overly dynamic as a route runner, not a crazy ball winner, not overly impressive with the ball in his hands. Like, he's fine as a guy that you might get a screen to or something like that, but not really going to wow you in that regard. To me, he's significantly less talented than Jamal Agnew and Laviska Shenault, but Agnew's coming off a major injury, and Viska's going to have to prove that the drops in 2021 were a fluke. So, will Zay Jones have a major impact for the Jaguars in 2022? It really depends on how you define that. Is he going to do the dirty work, help others get open, contribute as a blocker, and catch the easy ones? I think so. Is he going to be a big-time playmaker that gets you juiced when he's on the field? Probably not. And even if he is the Jaguars wide receiver 3, which I expect him to be, that doesn't mean he's the 3rd target for the offense. I'd expect Dan Arnold and Evan Ingram to outpace Jones in targets, and even Travis Etienne might end up with more catches than Zay Jones. To me, Jones is best as a role player. And even if he's being paid like a starter, I would hope the Jaguars deploy him as a role player. Come in, do the little things, be where he's supposed to be, help make the game easier for Trevor Lawrence, for the rest of the receivers, and for the running backs. If he does that, then to me, that's a positive impact. But is he going to be some difference-making receiver for the Jaguars, a guy who's a true playmaker that you want to scheme him up on third down? You want him to be one of your most targeted receivers? I really don't think that's Zay Jones' game, but that's okay. Again, he's going to make it easier for everyone else to succeed. I think that's going to be his primary role. And don't get me wrong, he's going to receive targets. And something you haven't seen in Jacksonville for a while is receivers being schemed open. Basically, if a receiver has not been winning his one-on-one matchup in Jacksonville for a long time, then they're not getting open. They're not having route combinations that really play off of each other super well and get receivers open just based on the play design. But that's going to change with Doug Peterson. And so I do think Jones will be able to, get open in this system, in this offense at times. And when he's open, he's going to be able to make big plays. Again, he's a good athlete with good hands in terms of catching the easy passes. So I think that's going to be the role that you're going to see him in, as a guy who is a supporting receiver, does the little things, gets others open. So is he worth $8 million a year? Is he worth a 2-year deal? Could you have potentially drafted a receiver that would be more impactful, or signed a receiver that would be more impactful as a pure receiver? Yes. But would you find someone that's going to make everything easier for this price tag? I'm not sure. So this is not a move that I'm pounding the table for the Jaguars, but I don't think it was a clear mistake by the Jaguars to sign Jones, as long as they are planning on using him as a role player, as a guy who does the dirty work and makes the plays that are there to be made within the context of the play. Then they're fine. That's going to do it. Thank you for tuning in, Duval. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube, and check genjag.com for all the latest Jaguars news, analysis, and Duval gear.